Hello and welcome to another edition of For the Record. My guest today is Tom Hyland. First time on the show. He is the Executive Director of the Martin House and also Thames River Community Service. So first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, John.
It may seem unusual. We're sort of talking about two different organizations, but it's for the same purpose, correct?
It is. Martin House and Thames River both are residential programs that house individuals and families that were formerly homeless. Martin House began in 1982, and I've been the only executive director all these years.
Wow!
And we have 56 individuals of low income, the majority of whom have histories of mental illness and or addictions. If they have addictions they're not using at the present time while living at Martin House. Thames River Community Service began in 1992, so we're 22 years old, and we house in Thames River Family Program formerly homeless families headed by women. So we have 24 apartments, 12 two-bedroom, 12 three-bedroom, and we provide services to these families to help them become self-sufficient. And we've had great success over the years. We have 33 families that have gone on to own their own homes after coming to us homeless. And we have 75 children that have been reunited with their mothers at Thames River. The state had taken the children away prior to coming to Thames River. Because they came to Thames River, the mothers received the children back. And most of those kids are still with their moms today. So, we have great success stories out of Thames River Family Program. And we also have two other programs. One is a permanent supportive housing program where we receive from the state of Connecticut rental certificates that go to the families that are formerly homeless, and they pay 30% of adjusted gross income for rent, and then we provide the social service to these families. These are families that have issues in their lives and need support in order to be successful out in the community. And then we also have a rapid rehousing program, which we take individuals and families out of shelters and place them in permanent housing and provide them short-term services in order to ensure that they'll retain that housing.
Now, the differences between Martin House and Thames River, was it possible that those sort of could have been combined under one umbrella, so to speak, or is it necessary just because of the nature of like the families with Thames River that should, and it's more appropriate to have that separate?
It was possible to put them all under one umbrella, but we were advised legally to separate them into two different corporations, so we took the legal advice.
How was it that you're obviously passionate about what you do and never wanted to leave, apparently? You've been the only executive director going back to the 80s as far as the Martin House goes, right?
Correct. I am very passionate about this. I mean, I grew up in the 1960s, and that was an exciting time. And so I wanted to devote my life in order to help people, and providing them shelter and a decent way of life, I thought was an important thing to do.
Where do we stand now as far as the homeless go in this area and the communities that you serve?
Well, let me tell you, I have been until just almost 6 months ago for over 10 years with Beverly Goulet, who's retiring as the Director of Social Services of Norwich, co-chair of the Partnership to End Homelessness in Southeastern Connecticut. And I'm really proud of the work that we do in Southeastern Connecticut in terms of bringing all the organizations that work with people who are homeless, individuals and families, and working together in order to solve homelessness in this region. And our goal really is to end homelessness. A lot of social service agencies manage the issue that they're dealing with, but our goal is to end homelessness in this region. And over the years, I found, over 32 years, all kinds of different attempts at doing this. I mean, at first, back in 1982, there were hardly any homeless shelters in the state. Now, it became really an industry in the state. And to be honest with you, shelters are no place for individuals and certainly for families with kids to live. Today, the goal is to get people out of shelters, whether they're individuals or whether they're families, as fast as possible. And the whole goal is to get them out under 30 days. A number of years ago, people might live 2 years in a shelter. Well, a shelter is not a home.
Yeah.
And, I think today, the whole goal in the state and certainly in our region is to end homelessness and to get people out of homelessness as quickly as possible.
And I think you would agree that one of the ways to do that, or the most important way to do that, is to continue, getting to a shelter and having shelter is one thing. But what do they do when they get there? They need direction at that point, and to be able to tie and plug into all these other social services that are available that the individual may not even be aware of is key to maybe possibly getting them back on their feet in some way.
Yeah, and that is true, but let me add one other thing, and that is it's important to even intervene before individuals or families become homeless in order to prevent that homelessness.
Right. If they get there, it's great that there's a place for them to go, but you would like to prevent it from ever happening in the first place.
Exactly. And there's not a whole lot of money out there, but there's some regionally in order to prevent homelessness. And so I think we're becoming smarter by not allowing people to become homeless and not allowing them to get into the system of shelters. Now, when people get to shelters, it is important that they have the services to help them get back on their feet. And whether you're a shelter or a transitional living program or a permanent supportive housing program, there's services tied to all of those.
Right. Since you've been doing it since the 80s, how is it different now? I know, as far as housing available, once they move from the shelter to something a little bit more permanent, is there housing available more so today than there was back, in earlier days when you started? What environmental situations are different? Obviously, there are more social services available for them, for sure, right?
Yes, and I think some of the differences for individuals, for example, are back in the early 80s in both New London and Norwich, there were hotels, which were not really decent places to live,
Right.
but they were low-income hotels where individuals might live. They weren't dignified places to live, to be honest with you. There were also some of those situations for families. Again, they were often dangerous situations, but there were a roof over people's heads. Well, today, those don't exist really anymore, either in New London or Norwich. And so the options for people are certainly more dignified, but they're a lot less. And so, we work real hard on forming relationships with landlords where the people in our programs can go afterwards. And so we have, for example, great relationships with landlords throughout all of New London County who actually call us when they have openings to see if we've got anybody to fill that slot.
Oh, okay. So if they're, because you could talk about a recession that happened not too long ago and housing issues. I was wondering if, you were affected in the sense that there might not even be as many places available because of that.
Well, it is tough to find affordable apartments, that's for sure, in this region. But one thing that happened back when the recession hit is that there was federal stimulus money, and the Obama administration made money available to prevent and end homelessness. And so some of that money came into this region, and we were able to prevent people from becoming homeless. One family that we prevented from becoming homeless had 12 children.
Wow.
So,
wow.
That money dried up pretty quickly. It was meant for 2 years, and it was used up within about 5 months. So that showed the need for those services of preventing and ending homelessness. But, it's always a challenge to find an affordable apartment for people.
As somebody watching the show and learning about these organizations and homeless in general, I think there's a stigma about the homeless, and it might be the stereotype of an individual, a homeless person that maybe You know, not somebody necessarily down on their luck, but maybe someone that's caught up with alcohol or drugs or something like that. And the more that I've listened to you talk today, you've mentioned families. People may not be aware of the problem where homelessness isn't about necessarily just an individual. It's whole families that are affected. And that's where
Absolutely.
Thames River came into existence more so as separate from the Martin House.
Correct. And, you know, every other year in this county and throughout the whole state, we do what's called a point-in-time count, one night in January. And the last full point-in-time count was done in 2013. In 2014, we did just what we call a sheltered count, which is of shelters and transitional programs. We didn't count people outside that were living outside. Well, in 2013, we did count both sheltered and unsheltered people who were homeless.
That really brings up the numbers. Huh?
And on that night, there were 307 people in this county that were homeless.
Wow.
And of that number, 86 of them were children, which is 28% of the homeless people in this county were kids.
Wow.
And I'm going to tell you, for kids to be homeless is very traumatic for them. It affects their schooling, it affects their home life, it affects their behavior, really.
Yeah.
And, you know, we had a child come to us when he was 9 years old. A year ago, he graduated from high school, and we have a fundraiser every year at the Mystic Marriott, a lunch auction the first Sunday of May, and he gave a talk about what Thames River meant to him. And he said it changed his life, that when he came to Thames River, he really, for years, never had a stable place to live. He lived with his mother, with aunts, or then he'd live in shelters, and then he'd go live with another relative, then he'd go back to shelters. And he said he had no stability. It had started to affect his behavior. He started to become antagonistic. He really didn't care about school. And he came to Thames River, where we have these services that it really not only work with the mothers, but also work with the kids. And he learned, while his mother was helping to change what her life was going to be, he learned to change what his life was going to be, and started to concentrate on school, saw that there were rewards in doing well in school, and he and his mother got an apartment leaving Thames River in Jewett City, a very nice apartment actually, and they still live there today. And he just graduated a year ago from El Grasso Tech and went on to be a student at Three Rivers Community College. And
Wow.
He was really proud of himself, and he should be.
Absolutely, and it just goes to show you that there are happy endings that can come out of situations like this. That was one of them. We're going to get to more. We'll take a break. I want you to give out the websites, or sites, I should say, for both, right?
Sure. We have two corporations, so we have two websites. One is Martin House Inc. martinhousect.org, and the other website is trfp.org for Thames River Community Service.
Tom Hyland's the executive director for both the Martin House and the Thames River Community Service. We will take a break and come back. I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Stay with us. Welcome back to For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest today is Tom Hyland. He is the executive director of the Martin House and also Thames River Community Service. And we went into the break on a very high note, a feel-good story about someone who basically kind of came back after. They were a success story. They utilized the services, were able to turn their life around and come back. And you have other success stories, people who have come back and just talked about their experiences and about how they were able to turn things around and actually, you know, get back on track, so to speak.
Well, yeah, we have a load of stories where people have really changed their lives and went from poverty to being success. And, you know, those are very gratifying results. And
It keeps you motivated to want to go to work every day, right?
You know what? It's easy to go to work every day because you see how people's lives are changing. And so I feel really grateful for that. And I think really the success of our programs are due to the quality of the programming within the programs. For example, in Thames River, we have what we call 2 advocates that work just with the mothers and on the issues that they have in their lives. Every mother coming into that program does a survey of her life and identifies areas of her life that she needs to strengthen in order to become self-sufficient. And then she works on those areas. And we have weekly educational programs for the mothers, and at the same time, child activities for the children. In Thames River, we have a Montessori preschool, and the teachers in that preschool run the children's activities downstairs, and so they get to see what's happening with the kids in group settings and what needs they might have at the time that the mothers are doing an educational program up in the meeting room in order to strengthen their lives. And there's various areas of development like money management, relationships, sexuality, certainly employment. That's a big push in order to get people employed and to keep them employed, and education also. So our advocates, the 2 advocates, work with the mothers around the goals that they set when they came into the program, and then work with them on fulfilling those goals. And then we have 2 advocates that also work around with the mothers around their children's issues. Because like I said earlier, homelessness is traumatic for kids. And so the kids come with issues in their lives, and it may be a learning disability, it may simply be the trauma of becoming homeless, it may be that they have a developmental disability. Whatever the issue is with the child, we network them out in the community with the resource in order to help them.
Right. So there is always not, that's just not the last stop to check into Thames River. That's the first step and the first stop. There are many other stops that you can help with on their way to recovery, if that's the right word to use.
Correct. Recovery is a great word because both of our programs really have as a goal recovery. And and the same is true at Martin House. At Martin House, 6 years ago, we have 14% of our people employed. Today, we have over 50% either employed in a competitive or non-competitive employment.
Does it help that the economy is a little better now?
The economy hasn't helped us over the past few years, for sure.
Yeah.
Because people who are, much better work records than the people that we serve are looking for the jobs that our people might take. We haven't seen a big turnaround in that yet. This county, about a year and a half ago, was listed as the 4th slowest county in the entire United States to recover from the recession.
Wow.
So
there was just no jobs available, or people were, businesses were cutting back more than they were certainly more than they were hiring.
Exactly. So this county has been really slow to recover from the recession, but our people are fortunate that they've got at least some resources in order to go and become employed.
You've been doing this for a long time. Maybe in a layperson's terms, help people to understand the reasons people what happens in their lives that they have to utilize your services and come to you in the first place. And I'm sure that it runs the gamut of things that are going on. You could probably do a whole show just on that.
You're absolutely right. I mean, every person's story is different. There's no one reason that people become homeless. A large percentage of the women that we serve at Thames River, for example, are victims of domestic violence. They're victims of sexual abuse. Some of this sexual abuse started to occur when they were children. And so
it's a cycle.
It is. When people who are children get abused, their lives become, I'll use the word again, traumatic.
Yeah.
And so they really need help in order to get back on the right path. And that's not to say that all the women that are in our program have that history, but domestic violence and abuse is
certainly one of the big ones.
A majority of the people.
Utilizing your services is one thing. Getting them back out there in housing is a big deal. and you've got a lot of different services that you utilize for it. One of the newest, and as it turns out, one of the more successful ones is this rapid rehousing program. Talk about that a little bit.
Correct. Rapid rehousing is something that's just come on the scene nationally within the past couple of years, and the past 2 or 3 years, and it's taken a big hold in this county. Rapid rehousing doesn't work to provide a lot of services in shelters. What it tries to do is get people out of shelters as quickly as possible into permanent housing, and then provide them short-term services in that permanent housing. And there's been great success with what we've done. There's been money given to New London County for the New London County Homeless Fund, administered by the United Way of Southeastern Connecticut. This money comes from the state government. And in 2012 and 2013, there have been 204 households that were in shelters and been housed. Wow. And of those, 140 of them were families with 286 children. Wow. So, you know, if we were just looking to create permanent housing with support services over a long term, stay through supportive housing, we would never be able to house that number of people in that short a time. But rapid rehousing, not everybody needs what's called supportive housing, which is heavy services after you receive permanent housing. They only need, a number of people only need short-term services and kind of a light touch with services once they get into housing.
Right, because it almost like once you can get steered in the right direction and get just a little push or a little help, it's almost like some momentum for some people that kind of keeps them going. And you know, it's amazing what a little, you know, just a little bit of help will do for a person's morale and maybe initiative to keep themselves going on the right path.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, people need to know that someone's in their corner.
This is something that you might not think about, or a person might not think about, but how often does pride get in the way of somebody who might need your services but may not want to take that first step because of pride? They're embarrassed, or just reasons that shouldn't be there that they could be taking advantage of to be helped.
Yeah, I think, you know, at some point people are too proud maybe, but you know, our programs have and our corporations have a good reputation in the community, so I don't think people are real hesitant about coming to us for services. I mean, I think by the time they come to us, they don't really have much left in life, and they've kind of bottomed out and need to start to climb back up.
The lunch auction that you were talking about that just passed in May, I know it's every year. That's one of the big revenue generators for you, but you have others too?
Yeah, we have another event that happens in the fall, usually November. It's that the Spirit of Broadway Theater gives us tickets to sell at a very reasonable price, and then we sell them to generate profit for Thames River. And we also have food available, so it's a nice evening at the theater for individuals and for couples. And it's been a real success in the past.
Are you always looking for volunteers to help out, or people that have the proper training to be able to kind of lend their expertise?
We are. You know, at Thames River, we can use volunteers in the child activities to work with the kids. And then we also have committees of our board, particularly the Development of Public Relations, which does the fundraising. And that's a really important committee for us because money is always an issue. At Martin House, I think one of the biggest volunteer activities is really becoming a friendly visitor, where you'd come and visit with somebody. You might take them out for a cup of coffee or a sandwich, and you know, just be a friend to them.
Let's take one more break and come back, so we'll do that. I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. We'll be right back. Stay with us. So that is our show for today. Tom Hyland is the Executive Director of the Martin House and also the Thames River Community Service. I want you to give both those websites out one more time for people to learn more. Maybe they would like to volunteer or be involved in some way, maybe some kind of a financial donation, which is always appreciated. What are the websites?
Okay, thank you. It's martinhousect.org, And then for Thames River, it's trfp.org.
Sounds good. What's on the websites for people to go see, by the way?
Well, there's a lot. There's some stories about the people we serve. There is information about some of our fundraisers.
All right.
There's publications that we've done in the past.
Links to social media too, I would imagine?
There is. We have a Facebook page.
All right. Sounds good. Tom Hyland, the Executive Director for both the Martin House and Thames River Community Service. We learned a lot today, and we thank you for being on the show.
Oh, well, thank you for having me.
And thank you for joining us for another edition of For the Record. You can see this show and many others on our YouTube site. Till next time, take care.